Good morning. I'm Kranthi, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology. Today I'm going to cover the topic security attacks and cyber security techniques. Coming to the security attacks, there are two types of security attacks, passive attack and active attack. First, I'll be explaining what do you mean by passive attack and active attack. Then we'll be going in deep of what are the different categories of passive attack and active attack. So first, passive attack is a type of attack where the data can only be accessed but no modification can be performed to the data. Whereas in the active attack, when a data is being forwarded from the sender to the receiver side, a manipulation of the data or alteration or reordering of the data can be performed. So coming to the categories of passive attacks. There are two types of passive attacks, release of message content and traffic analysis. First, coming to the release of message content attack, here we can consider the best example as telephone conversation or an email message. So first, considering the telephone conversation, when two users are being communicating between one another, a third person who does not have permissions to access the data will be listening the conversation. In this point, what we have to make a note of it is just he is listening the data, but he cannot perform any alterations to the data. Similarly, in the second example, if you take the email message, a file may be of a sensitive message which may be very confidential and does not be accessed by other person. In this case also, a third party who does not have access to see the mail will access the mail, see the content, so that the security content will be lost. So this is a type of release of message content. So as you can see in this particular diagram, Bob is considered as a sender and Alice is considered as a receiver. Here the person Darth is a third person who does not have permissions to access the data which is being communicated between the Bob and Alice. But what Darth is doing is, whatever the message that is being forwarded from Bob to Alice, he will be capturing the message and he is reading the entire data. This type of attack is known as release of message content. In this, we can also observe that he is just capturing and reading the data, but he cannot perform any modifications to the data. Second, traffic analysis. This is the second category of passive attack. So in this, as the name itself specifies, we'll be analyzing the traffic, that is the data. What is the type of data that is being transferred in between the sender and the receiver? What is the pattern? What is the amount of time required to transfer, and who is the sender, means the identification of the user, who is the identity of the user. All these things will be analyzed in this type of attack. Second category, active attacks. As I have already mentioned, in the active attack, it is a type of attack where the modification of the data is being performed in between the sender and the receiver, and this modification is being done by some third party. In this active attack, there are four categories of active attacks: masquerade, replay, modification of messages, and denial of service. First, considering the masquerade attack. Masquerade is nothing but a third party will be pretending to be as the actual user and he will be forwarding the data to the receiver side. As you can see in this diagram, same, Bob is acting as a sender and Alice is acting as a receiver. Darth, the third person who is an unauthorized user and who does not have permission to access the data. What is he doing here is, Bob is sending a message to the Alice, but Darth is capturing the data that is being forwarded from the Bob. He will be performing modifications to the data, and then he will be acting as a sender, that is Bob, and then he will be forwarding the data to the receiver side. What Alice thinks is that the data has been received from the original user, that is Bob, but the message is being forwarded from the third unauthorized party, that is Darth. This type of attack is known as masquerade, meaning pretending to be as an actual user, and this is one category of the active attack. Second category is replay. So replay is retransmission of the message. So a user will be sending the data. Again, what the third party will be doing? He will be sending the same data again to the receiver side, so that it will be disrupting the user permissions of the system and also to the user. The third case is a modification of the message. As the name itself specifies, you are modifying the message. For example, you can see what allow John Smith to read confidential file accounts. But what the third party is doing is he has changed it to allow Fred Brown to read confidential file accounts. So the receiver will not be receiving what the actual message is being forwarded. The modified message is being received to the receiver. So this type of attack is known as modification of messages. And fourth is a denial of service attack. So in this we'll be having other category also, which is known as distributed denial of service attack. So first I'll be telling about the denial of service attack. When you are sending a message from the sender to the receiver side, what the actual process is that a sender will be sending a message to the receiver. What the receiver have to do, he needs to give acknowledgement to the sender that I have received the message which is being forwarded from you. But in this type of attack, what will be happen is that a sender will be sending a message to the receiver, but the receiver will not send any acknowledgement to the receiver. In the same time, the sender will be sending the second message to the receiver. He will not get any acknowledgement. Again, third message will be forwarded. Again, fourth message will be forwarded. In this way, a dump of messages will be forwarded to the receiver side. Means the system gets interrupted. The system activities or the operations gets interrupted, and the receiver system is not in a position that it can be sending the reply back to the sender. So a single system continuously sending an amount of messages to the receiver without getting any acknowledgement from the receiver side is known as denial of service attack. The other type of attack, that is a network attack, is the distributed denial of service attack. The procedure is the same, but what the thing is, in the sender side will be having a multiple number of systems, and every system will be forwarding the message to the receiver side. But the receiver will not send any acknowledgement to the sender systems. In this way, multiple systems at a time sending multiple messages to the receiver without getting acknowledgement, so that it is completely interrupted. This type of message is known as, this type of attack is known as distributed denial of service attack. So to overcome from this all these types of attacks, we need some cyber security techniques to provide security to overcome from the attack. So we'll be discussing some of the techniques. The first one will be going to the encryption. Before going to the encryption, I'll be giving you a brief overview of what do you mean by plain text, what do you mean by ciphertext, what is a secret key, what do you mean by encryption, and then what do you mean by decryption. So first, plain text is the original message which is in a readable format, whereas ciphertext is a message which is in a unreadable format. So converting of this readable message into unreadable message is known as encryption. So this encryption is being done using a key which is known as a secret key, and this secret key is being shared by both the sender and the receiver. In the similar way, this encryption is being done in the sender side, whereas decryption is being done at the receiver side. Decryption means converting the unreadable format of the message into readable format is known as decryption. So in this encryption, so you can see in this diagram what we are having, we'll be having a message called hello. Hello is the message that is being forwarded from the sender to the receiver side. So to maintain security, what we are doing is we need to encrypt our data. We are encrypting using this secret key. So using the secret key, the hello, which is a readable message, which is also called as a plain text, is being converted into ciphertext at the sender side. The ciphertext is an unreadable format of the message. So this unreadable format of the message is being forwarded to the receiver side. What the receiver has to do, he need to decrypt the message. So using the same secret key which is being used by the sender, he will be converting this unreadable format of the message into readable format. As we can see in the diagram, it is being converted into the original message, that is hello. This process is known as decryption. So in encryption, as I have specified, there is symmetric encryption and asymmetric encryption. Symmetric means using same secret key at the sender side and receiver side is known as symmetric encryption. Whereas asymmetric encryption means sender will be having a 2 pair of keys and the receiver will be having a 2 pair of keys. The pair of keys which is at the sender side is public key and private key, and the pair of keys which are at the receiver side is a receiver's public key and private key. So the sender's public key can be accessed by all the users who are present in the network, whereas the private key of the sender is being accessed by only the sender. The other users cannot access the private key. Similarly, in the receiver side also, the receiver's public key is accessed by all the users, whereas the receiver's private key is accessed by only the receiver. The other main point what we have to make a note of it is, while you are performing this asymmetric encryption, you can be performing this encryption using sender's set of keys or else with the receiver set of keys. Means if you are performing the encryption using sender's private key, you need to decrypt it with the sender's public key. Similarly, if you are encrypting with the receiver's public key, you need to decrypt it with the receiver's private key. This is the combination. So you cannot encrypt by using the sender's key and decrypt with the receiver's key. So both the pair of keys should be common. So similarly, here in the asymmetric key encryption, you will be using the keys, symmetric key encryption for sender and for the receiver. So this is the process that is being explained in this slide. You will be using the pair of keys for encryption and decryption process. Okay, and along with the encryption, you will be having the other cyber security technique called the digital signature. So in this digital signature, along with providing encryption, you will also be providing authentication. So authentication means you need to know whether the data that is being sent by the sender is a correct data or correct sender or not. So here encryption and authentication both are being provided by using this digital signature. So what's the actual process performed is, you can see in this diagram, the data which is the original message that is being forwarded from the sender. You will be encrypting this particular data using the sender's private key. Once you will be encrypting with the sender's private key, you will be getting the unreadable format of the message, that is ciphertext. What the next step you have to do is, by getting this encrypted message, you will be attaching the original message that is present at the sender side to the encrypted message and then forward it to the receiver. So what the actual process, the original message which is being attached to the sender's encrypted message is being attached and then forwarded to the receiver. At the receiver, what we'll be doing is, the receiver need to decrypt the data. He will be decrypting the data by using the sender's public key. Once the message is being decrypted, then you need to compare it with the original message which is already being forwarded with the sender. If the comparison is equal, if both the messages are equal, then you will be tallied that the message which is being forwarded by the sender is a correct message, and also you can prove that the user is a authenticated user. If in case the message is not being matched, or else if it's decrypted message, after decrypting, if you get a message which is not common to the original message, then you will be finalizing that it is not a correct message. This is the other cyber security technique which is being performed and which is known as digital signature. So to overcome these attacks, we will be using different types of techniques. Among them, today I have explained what do you mean by encryption. Among the encryption, we have discussed what is symmetric and asymmetric encryption, and what is a digital signature, and what is the purpose and use of digital signature. Thank you.